Oh, hey guys, how's it going? You're probably wondering where I've been, huh? Want another video? Let's go lay some pipe.
So if you're trying to run your intercooler piping through your radiator support or through your firewall, and you're like, oh my god, how am I going to drill a big ass hole in the firewall? It's so thick and it's metal. Oh god, what am I going to do? Do I have to use a torch? Okay, well that's what I was thinking. We were just going to cut the holes out with John's plasma cutter, but I went to Lowe's and found this. This is a 3.5 inch bimetal hole saw bit. It's made by Lsx, and as you can see, I mean, it powered right through it, guys. There's the piece that came out, but on this side, I mean, boom, right through, no problem. Well, I say no problem. I will tell you this: I tried 2 different 20 volt lithium cordless drills that I had, and neither one of them had the torque to pull it off. So I ended up having to break out old Trusty here, which is probably older than I am, but just make sure you hold on to it and don't try to force it, because you know there's dips and turns in the metal, and it will break your damn wrist if you're not careful. Now that we have our holes drilled for our piping, and I'm gonna clean those up with a file, and I'm probably also gonna split a piece of vacuum line and rub them around, or run it around in there, just to get rid of the sharp edges. That was actually John's idea. But anyway, now what I'm doing is I'm putting a coupler on my intercooler here, and you can note that I don't have the top bracket bolted down on the intercooler, so I can rock it back and forth. But what I'm trying to do is, you know, when the intercooler is bolted in, it's going to be back here, so obviously this support is going to interfere with my piping. So what I'm doing is I'm putting this coupler on here so I can get an idea of where it's going to interfere, and mark this brace right here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to cut a chunk out of this brace so that our piping can come straight in. It's been a few days since I've been out here working on this, and I'm about to tell you why. I apologize it's taken so long to get these videos out, but I learned a very important lesson about why there is a guard on a grinder / cutoff wheel. So in the process of trying to cut out and clearance for my intercooler piping, I took the guard off the back of my grinder. This guy right here, well, it's got a sanding disc on it now, but you know, it did have the grinding disc. Well, what happened was, when I was cutting these out, the grinder actually kicked back, and I had on just the normal plastic gloves you usually see me wearing, that, you know, all they're there for is to keep you know, to keep my hands clean. But anyway, the grinder kicked back, and had I had the guard still on it, it wouldn't have been an issue. But I took the guard off because I was having trouble getting into some of these tighter areas. When the grinder kicked back, I had my hand up like this. I was bracing myself while I was grinding, and it came back and hit right here, and it just sliced my knuckle open. If you can imagine, I'm not going to show it on film because honestly, YouTube's getting kind of ridiculous with the stuff they're doing to demonetize videos now, so I don't want to put anything that might be considered graphic, you know. But basically it laid my knuckle completely open to the bone right here, so that's why I've got this bandage on it now. This cut here was from a drill bit, that was from something else. But anyway, just letting you guys know what took me so long. But the good news is I got all my braces cut. I don't think we're going to have John reinforce them. I mean, it still seems pretty solid. So we're going to go ahead and put the intercooler back in, and I'm going to start measuring to cut my pipes. You may have noticed I didn't put the top support that we built in here yet, and I also did not tighten up the bolts on the brackets down there. The reason for that is because when we're running the intercooler piping, there's not going to be a lot of clearance back here behind this, between this and the firewall. So what I need to be able to do is run the pipes out here, put the couplers on, and then put this top piece on and push everything back. First thing I'm going to try to do is I'm going to dig through our box of piping that we have from the STS kit, and try to find what we need to come off of our turbo and curve forward to go through the firewall here. This is what I found. No doubt this is the original piece that was designed for that, because it's like 2 inches here and then it flares to about 2 1/4 here. I can look through this hole and see the turbo outlet right there. So we should be able to trim this to aim perfectly at this hole. It's looking like it's going to be just a little too long. Now if we trim it right here where I've marked it with the yellow, it should be about perfect. The only problem with that is at that point our coupler has to attach into a curved part of the pipe, and as you can now see, while it's still kind of towards the bottom of the hole, we can work with that. There'll actually be a little bit of flex there, a little bit of give, so that will work. I don't want to cut any more off of it, because as I already said, if I cut any more off, then I'm afraid the coupler is not going to want to stay on there, because it's going to be in the middle of the turn on the pipe. And as is the theme here, it's looking like we might get rained out. We've got some dark clouds moving in, so try to hurry up and get some more done here. Finally got all of our piping run from our intercooler back into the radiator support. What I had to do is I had to cut a 4-inch piece here, and I had to put a straight coupler here and then a 4-inch piece into an elbow. And the reason I had to do that was because the radiator support has a support beam right here that I had to cut through, so obviously I couldn't cut my circle, my big round hole for the piping to go straight back through there. But that should work. Next thing we need to do is work on going from this coupler over. There's going to be our fan shroud here, and then up into the throttle body. What I wanted to show you was the tool that I'm using to cut this intercooler piping. I actually went to AutoZone and rented a tailpipe cutoff tool. The reason I rented this is because I was trying to cut the pipes with, just with a cutoff wheel. They were turning out kind of jagged. It's, kind of hard to cut all the way around in a straight line. And I do want to say, even with this, it's not exactly perfectly straight, but it's pretty close. And, this makes it really easy, and you're not throwing metal shavings everywhere. So this is pretty cool. It actually came in a kit of tailpipe and muffler tools, so I had to pay about $120 something after tax to rent it. Of course, when I take it back tomorrow, I'll get all that back, but highly recommend using one of these to cut your intercooler piping. It makes it a snap. Got our pipe coming out from the intercooler, going over, and then we've got our pipe that's coming from our throttle body and curving down. Now here comes the issue. We have to connect those two pipes, and so we've hit another snag. Of course, I'm going to cut this pipe off about right here, but I think what I'm going to have to do is get like a 3-inch 45-degree coupler. So we are at yet another roadblock here. And I know a lot of you would say, well, hey, Robert, why don't you just turn this pipe up, turn that pipe up, cut them both off, use a straight coupler. Well, if I wasn't putting the fan shroud back in, I could do that. But I want this to look nice and stock when I'm done. And so, that's the price you pay for trying to make something look nice is, sometimes you got to spend a little more money and take a little more time. So if you know, the fan shroud, I actually set it in here a minute ago, and you can see the scuffs on this pipe. So this pipe's actually going to have to turn down that way just a little. So yeah, I guess what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cut that pipe off, mark it and cut it off about right there, and we'll just have to work on something else. Went ahead and cut this off so you can kind of get a better idea of what that's going to look like. See? So we just need a 45-degree coupler there, and cold side will be done. Yeah, looks good, and all that should fit under the stock radiator shroud when we put, or the stock fan shroud when we put it back on. So I mean, obviously the turbo is going to be sticking up over here, but you know, there's nothing really I can do about that unless I rear mount it. But other than the turbo being here, you know, we'll have our shroud here covering everything up, and then we've got our engine covers for the engine. Everything ought to look nice and neat under here. And there's the front mount intercooler. I'm about to stick my crappy old 1980s tube style grill back in there for now.
Well guys, that looks like it's about as far as we're going to get today. We're trying to kind of batten down the hatches. I mean, we're all the way in Tennessee, but they're saying we're going to be getting a lot of rain and wind from Hurricane Irma, or whatever the hell its name is. So we got to get our camper collapsed and a few other things, you know, set just in case we get some fairly heavy winds here. I'm sure we're not going to get a whole lot, but I'm not going to take the chance. It's an old camper. We don't want it falling apart. So anyway, that's pretty much the cold side done. I mean, I'll be doing another video when we go to put in the blow off valve, things like that. But anyway, stick around. If you hadn't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Bad Luck Garage.